That's a fart.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tough Friends Don't Last vlog. I'm your favorite co-host, Michelle. This is Graham. Say what's up, Graham.
What's up, Graham?
Today we're just going to do a sit and chat, and we're going to talk a little bit about why we started this podcast. So I've got some questions that we're going to go through, and we're just going to answer those. We're excited to be here. We ran 2 miles this morning. Well, one of us ran 2 miles. One of us ran like 5 miles.
Well, I ran the 2 miles too, so
Yeah, but
I
you
pointed
ran
myself twice.
3 more miles than I did.
Yeah. Well, I thought you were going to say run, walk. Like one of us ran,
Oh.
walked. So that's why I pointed myself twice.
To kind of start off, like, what made you decide to start a running podcast?
Well, I have been a podcaster for, I don't even know at this point, pushing 4 years, about 3.5 years. I have a sports podcast that I do with my best friend, and some of our other friends sometimes chime in as well from time to time. It's mainly me and my best friend. And sometimes I get motivated to do things. Like I got motivated to write a book. I got motivated to run a marathon one day. I've always been kind of an avid runner. Just kind of hit me one afternoon. I got inspired and I said, I think I want to do a running podcast. And because I already have a tight schedule, so it didn't make sense to try and fit it in my already busy schedule. But I said, I want to do a running podcast. And I was on the phone with her, Michelle, about it, telling you're the one I told about it. I want to do a running podcast. And I didn't have anybody in mind really to do it with. I wasn't this was a year ago, so I wasn't as active in my run club. So there wasn't anybody I could really go to comfortably and say, hey, do you want to do a running podcast with me? Because then they'd be like, who's this weird guy I barely know that wants to do a podcast with me? And so I just asked you. The idea going into it was, well, let me start by saying I've done solo podcasts before. It's not for me. I prefer it when somebody else is involved, just because it gives me a break. Two, I can get lost in my own conversation sometime, which y'all have seen. So it's just nice to have somebody else to go back and forth with and get their thoughts on it. It's just I prefer it that way. And then I asked you, I said, do you want to do it with me? Just the first episode. The idea was let's just do the first episode just to have somebody to do it with.
Right.
And then it was like, you know what? I thought that went well. It went okay. Yeah. I mean, we're not perfect by any means, but thought it went okay. So you want to come back? And then you just kind of became you became the permanent host, really, after co-host after the first episode.
It's true. We did like a funny, she's back and she's going to stick around this time. So,
and we have a decent rapport together. So it just worked out that way, I thought.
It does. Where did the name Tough Runs Don't Last come from? This was kind of an interesting thing. It was you texted me and asked me about running podcast names, and I was just texting back random things. I was Googling.
Hoping one would stick.
Yeah, and you did not like any of them.
I didn't. They were bad.
They were. I
remember thinking, she can't be serious.
Like, they weren't great. But there's a quote that says, tough runs don't last, but tough runners do. And so I had texted you, tough runs don't last. And you liked that one.
Is that how it happened?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it because I don't remember.
Did you have any other names in the running?
It took me a minute to get that. And I've had coffee today.
Hopefully our watchers got that a little bit quicker.
Yeah, surely. I really didn't. Not anything good. Tough runs don't last made the most sense. There was nothing that was coming into my brain that worked. Like something, like, when it's the name. Like when I wrote my book, it was part of It's a fiction book. It's part of a quote in the book itself, and I knew like that's the name. Like that's when I was like, that's the name of the book. When my buddy suggested the sports show name, and I took that part off, I was like, that's the name. When you suggested that, that's what it was. I was like, that's it. That's the name. I had nothing. I just knew I wanted to do a running podcast because I like to run. I like to talk about running.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It just made sense to want to do a running podcast, but no, did not have anything else in mind.
What makes our co-hosting chemistry work?
We, for the most part, get along okay. I think
For the most
pretty
part.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, we're comfortable.
Yeah.
Around each other. We can joke. We don't take things too seriously.
Right.
And you can check me from time to time. I think probably like you can. If my head gets a little too big, you can bring me back down to earth.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that ever happens, but you're capable of doing so. I'll put it that way. I'm a very humble person.
Very humble. We have different running experiences and different running techniques, I guess.
Technique or skill?
Skill, both.
Okay.
Both. So how does that work for a running podcast that we have two different levels?
See, that's the thing. You listen to other running podcasts. There's a billion of them out there, and it's all people that are really good runners.
Mhm.
It's a couple of people that are really talented runners. I'm average to slightly above average runner. Is that fair?
Humble. Very humble.
Is it not?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's realistic.
Yeah, I mean, you got second place today. Like,
Yeah,
you
a
tend to place,
sub 14-minute 2-mile run
you
for a
tend to place
40-year-old.
in these races.
So slightly above average.
Yeah.
And you were a talented runner growing up,
At one time.
and then you had an injury and then got out of it, and now you have a heart condition that you became aware of, so you can only go to a certain point. So if anything, we have a more probably realistic approach to running as opposed to some of the elites that have their own running podcasts, because what's easy for them isn't easy for the average person.
Yeah.
And like the average person can't listen to that and relate. Now they do have a lot of great advice. I'm not knocking their shows. They're talented for a reason, and they know what they're doing. But we're able to maybe relate to the average runner when it comes to that a little more than maybe they do at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's good for like new runners or people who might be interested in running to hear from someone who does like intervals and who doesn't place at all these races. I've never placed at any of these.
You got 6th today in your age group.
There were only 6 in my age group.
Correct.
But like that's what I mean. Like I come in last in my age group quite a bit. And so it's good to see that there's someone who can come in second in their age group, but also someone who comes in last in their age group and is still out there and doing it. How has making this podcast changed your own running journey?
I don't know that it has at all. I don't think it has at all. I think I'd be doing what I was already doing just because of the race series that I'm doing, the various ones that I'm doing. Now, it's different in the sense that you and I are going to run a half marathon next weekend because it's good content. Like, that's why we're doing it, essentially, is because it's content.
Yeah.
And good content. I think it's going to be entertaining content. It's going to be part of the vlog, right?
It will be the vlog, the next vlog episode.
So
yes.
Y'all get to look forward to that. It's going to be a show. But overall, I don't think it's changed my approach at all. I've done this. I ran track in high school. I wanted to do my first marathon at 19 years old, the Little Rock Marathon, and then I hurt my knee and really couldn't run like I could do like sports with my buddies, intramurals, but I always had to wrap my knee, and I couldn't really go above like 2 miles running without it hurting. And after a while, it healed, it got better, but I was busy with school, partying with my friends, and it just wasn't a priority. And at 26 years old, I was in a pretty dark place, just in every spot in my life. Home life was hell, work life was hell. I needed a goal, just to something to get out of bed every morning. And yeah, I saw that the Hog-Eye Marathon was coming up. It was too late to do Little Rock, and I was like, well, I can do the Hog-Eye. I was living in the Fayetteville area anyway, so I did my first marathon. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. I said I'm never doing that again. I was sick as a dog for 2 days just because I didn't know how to take care of myself leading up to it, and especially during the run. Didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have anybody to go to and say, "Hey, what do I do for this?" And but 2 days later, when I started to feel human again, I said, I think I'm gonna do that again." And it's just kind of, and it hasn't been consistent. Like I've had breaks and all that, but I always found my way back to it. And it's always whatever goal is next. I don't think it's changed it that much. It's my long-winded way of saying that.
I think it's changed it for me.
Absolutely. You wouldn't be doing the Grand Prix without that.
I wouldn't have joined a run club. I would not be in the Grand Prix. I probably would still only do like the 5K at the Little Rock Marathon every year. I think that's the one thing. I do enjoy that. And I think that's the one thing that I would maybe keep doing. But I wouldn't be doing all of these other races for sure. So it's definitely changed mine because one, we do need content. And two, it's one thing to just like sit there and let you talk at me. It's another thing to sit there and talk about my own experience at that same race or a different race.
As much as I like listening to myself talk, it gets old at a certain point.
Yeah.
And I need somebody else to chime in at some point. Believe it or not, y'all.
Where do you see the podcast going?
I don't know. I don't have any idea. Wherever it takes us. I mean, I don't know. We're driving and we don't know where we're going. There's no destination. We're just going to see where it leads us, basically.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I would like to see, we've got some more listeners here in Central Arkansas, members of run clubs and things like that in the area that know us. I would like to see it expand maybe out of the state.
I don't want it to just be about this. So what's this Grand Prix race going to be? It's like, no, I want to evolve. I'm getting into trail running. I want to talk about some trails or trail running or pacing, or which I already do, but I want to do something more than just that. I don't want to run competitively forever. There's a side of me that just wants to go enjoy the run.
Last question.
This is it?
This is it.
Okay.
What would you say to someone thinking about starting a podcast and or starting running?
If you're wanting to start a podcast, I don't know what your expectations are going into it. You're not going to be Joe Rogan right away. Just for me personally, I get with somebody that knows, that has done a podcast and can tell you where to go as far as, or how to set up streaming platforms, etc., getting the right equipment, which we don't even have to a degree.
Right.
But as far as the streaming platforms go, I pretty much got that nailed down, and that's just through connections. That's through reaching out and asking a lot of questions of how to set myself up for this particular type of platform that can connect me to others. And yeah, you'll need to advertise to an extent. Just do things to get your brand out there. But I would say temper your expectations and have fun. Don't go into it uptight. Like if you go, people can talk amongst themselves and have really good conversations and come up with witty stuff that they say amongst their friends and all that because they're relaxed, right?
Right.
And then you turn the microphone on and the camera on, and it doesn't click the same.
You just like freeze.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't happen. I do it all the time still. Like even on my sports one, I can't think of a word or a stat or something that I'd normally be able to think of easily.
Yeah.
So and that just comes with being a little tense. Just relax, have fun mainly. Have fun, but talk to people that have done it too, and basically set yourself up for success that way in preparation, but also have fun.
Yeah. I would say to just start. And it doesn't have to be to start running, though. There are so many people who walk these races that if you just want to get out and see what a race is like, just be like, I'm going to walk it and just walk. I walked the Little Rock Half Marathon last year. Like, there's nothing wrong with just walking the race if you just want to experience that. To start running, I think like interval training is a really easy way to do that if you've never ran before, because it gets you used to getting your heart rate up and calming down a little bit, and you continue to increase your running. The Couch to 5K is a great program for that. That's what it does, is interval. It's a time-based thing, so you can do that. You could also just, I don't use a program, I just use whatever intervals I want to. So you kind of can learn on your own what works for you and what doesn't. If you're someone who is a little bit more active and maybe you do run more, or you just do other cardio or things like that, then I would say just do it. Just try. Just kind of see where it takes you and what you can do with that. But my biggest advice is just start. Try.
My friend Joey, that I work with, did his first half marathon last Sunday in North Little Rock. It's his first ever race.
Yes.
His first ever race was a half marathon. He ran twice leading up to that. He did two 2-mile runs at around a 10-minute pace that week, and was like, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna just go see what I got. He tried to keep up with me, the 2:20 pacer, for the first half of it. Suck and win hard. I mean, hard. He had. Hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I don't think he would, but he had quit smoking like 4 or 5 days prior, which he's still going strong on that, by the way. So shout out Joey on that. Good job, buddy. And so I was worried. I was like, I don't know if he's going to finish. I knew how stubborn he was, but I was like, I don't know if he can physically do it. But it was 2 out and backs. On the first comeback, I was like, okay, he's found a groove. And he finished. He wanted an official time because they start to pack it up at 3 hours. And he came in at 2:59 and change.
Yeah.
2:59 and change, was dead last in amongst the males, 17 of 17, 3 of 3 in his age group. But hey, got a third place award for his age group. But now he said he wants to do the Little Rock Marathon. The Little Rock Marathon.
Wow. 26.2.
So he's basically already kind of prepping for that.
Okay.
So there's that. And me, after high school, I did a 5K at 23 years old. And this is after high school, my first race after high school. I ended up winning the thing. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm still all right at this. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I said, screw it, let's just go do a marathon. And so that's what I did. And it was the experience I told you, the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life to that point. But then I was like, I did it. One, I did it. Two, it's like, I want to do it again. So everybody's different. If you feel like you need to start slow, do that. If you want to dive right in, if it's something very challenging and it's just something you want to shoot for, don't be afraid to shoot for it. If you fail, you fail. That's the worst thing that happens, is you fail.
That's all that we have for you on the vlog this week. We are going to podcast about our 2-mile race, and that will be live, so you can check that out. We'll pin it in a card somewhere on the screen. We'll pin that, And so you can check out that episode if you haven't already listened. Otherwise, the next one will be the attempt at a half marathon.
Oh, you're doing it.
We'll see what happens.
We will. I'll try to get her to do it.
So stick around.
She can
And
do it.
that's all we got for you this time. See ya.